Hello, everyone. My name is Key Williams. I'm a junior at Harvard College and an undergraduate researcher under Dr. Shen and Shen Labs, working to spread awareness of neuroscience and the expanding neuroscience career fields. I'm joined today with Dr. Margaret Tarampi, who is the Director of University Interdisciplinary Studies, an Associate Professor in the Psychology Department at the University of Hartford, and currently serves on the board of the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture. She commands a lab focusing on the mental processes that underlie spatial cognition and perception in specific populations, such as visually handicapped people and people with high spatial aptitudes, such as dancers and architects. Dr. Tarampi, it is an honor to interview you today, and if I missed any pertinent information, please feel free to let me know.
Oh, what a pleasure. Thank you for just a wonderful introduction.
Of course. Okay. To begin, let's start with how you found yourself within your current occupation and your journey of how you got there.
It's an interesting one, I think. I've always been in love with architecture, and when I went to college, I was kind of torn about going into architecture only because I think I had a naive idea about the profession of architecture. Everyone in my family works in healthcare or are teachers. And I had this just strong desire also to do things with my life that would directly improve the lives of others. And it really got me thinking about the relationship of architecture with people. And one of my professors said, we spend the majority of our times in the built environment. It must be affecting us. You can't help but to think that. And that really just inspired me and to continue with architecture and then figure out how to study that intersection. And that took me on this interesting path of getting into neuroscience and working at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, and to where I'm now, where I'm able to research questions that answer the questions that I've had early on when I first started thinking about this relationship.
That is very inspiring for both me and those watching. How would you say that the day-to-day life of a neurodesign professor and researcher looks like?
I think maybe one of the big differences for me is that I'm always observing the world and looking at how people are behaving and interacting in architecture and how it might be influencing their behaviors or the ways that they feel or the ways that it contributes or not to their productivity or their creativity or how they just are, feeling health wise, both emotionally, psychologically, physically. And so, part of my role as a professor in teaching my classes, it's always infused, even in my regular psychology classes, is infused by this viewpoint of the built environment and architecture, and sharing that with my students who are both majors and non-majors, that this is an important link and we should want and we should fight for environments that are going to give us the best support for, you know, um, meeting our potential.
Right. I love the interdisciplinary approach to your teaching. And for students and others watching this, what advice would you give them about pursuing a career in neurodesign?
I would say that, you know, right now it's such a great time to go into this area because so many people are invested in supporting this type of research and are curious about it. And that just makes a great atmosphere when there's so many people, especially internationally, who are interested in these questions. When I started out, there was very few people who were pursuing this work. And so there was, I think, challenges in that realm. But now there's so many people to talk to collaborate with, to work in their labs, to work in architecture firms who have research um, arms. And I think if you're interested in this field, um, you I think for many folks, you can take it from the architecture side or you can take it from the neuroscience side and find a space for you to pursue questions of neuroscience and architecture.
Thank you so much for your insightful words. And finally, to wrap up this interview, what has been the most interesting find from your research involving space perception?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I as someone who was first trained as an architect and then went into neuroscience, I think sometimes we might discount the kind of tacit knowledge that has been formed in other disciplines, right? That don't use perhaps the scientific method to build up their knowledge base. So, in architecture has been around for centuries, and the knowledge from architecture is um, is so vast and rich, and that we really need to have these more collaborative relationships. I think with when we're studying things uh, that are of mutual interest. But one of the things I think that was really interesting to me is in my work with individuals who have low vision, we I was part of a team that did all of this research studying the ways that people with low vision are able to perceive the environment and what they're using in the environment in order to navigate safely. And some of these earlier studies showed that some of the things that they use in the environment are things that are just like fundamental to the way that we practice architecture. And I just thought, yes, like we are showing that these things that we've been doing all along in architecture, at least, um, are things that are helpful for everyone. And I think that also helps with making the argument about good design, is to say sometimes people are not convinced by other types of knowledge, but like scientific knowledge is something that people can really hang their hat on. So it's just another way that we can bring people into the fold, so to speak, to say, yes, like architecture is so important, and that what architects do is important, and we're seeing that it's being supported by the research that we're doing.
Absolutely. Dr. Tarampi, thank you so much for being a part of this interview.